Welcome to Life Without Limits. I'm your host, James Garcia, and we are here today with Brian Patel, the Executive Director of UCP Center for Disability Services in Joliet, Illinois.
Well, James, thank you so much for having me.
Let's dive right into your background. How did you get into this field? And then how did you get to be the head of UCP there in Joliet?
Where it started for me was when I was in high school, I did a service project I did a class where I had to go perform a service on a daily basis. And so for my entire senior year, I would leave school and support adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities at a workshop. And so I was doing things like quality control, teaching, modeling, helping, the individuals, put 100 nails in a nail box or shrink wrap manuals, all kinds of different things, or put binders of paper in like an employment handbook before everything went online. The work was fun, but interacting with the individuals and seeing, the impact I was having with them was notable for me as a 17-year-old kid, which if you would have known me back then, probably was not part of my personality. So that was a good service experience that I had. And then,
where was the service experience?
Yeah, it was at a social services agency supporting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. In my area, I would leave my high school and go provide that support during the school day as a class. And so for me, the motivation initially was to get out of school and not sit through a class. I got to go leave and do something. And really, my story is a little bit odd because then I went to college the next year. I wanted to be a lawyer. Then I wanted to be a finance person. I wanted to then do other sales stuff. I basically did all kinds of things until I got back to like the psychology department, College of Education. So I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in psychology and wanted to go into the social services field. Worked in residential, working with individuals that were either wards of the state or were not able to live at home due to some significant behavioral challenges and some mental health issues. So I supported those individuals in residential for about 5 years.
Was that for a nonprofit or for a state agency?
Yeah, that was for an agency. I was working for the Children's Home and Aid Society of Illinois at the time, and I worked there at the Rice Challen Family Center in Evanston, Illinois, supporting individuals that were either wards of the state or had families but just couldn't live in the home due to some of the behavioral and mental health issues that they were living with at the time. So got to do a bunch of cool stuff there, take kids to appointments, help them with their homework, help them live, and then ultimately try to help them either go to a foster family or return back home. And that was, some tough and challenging work. Made a lot of good relationships with staff members and some of the clients that we served as well in the residential setting. So yeah, they were there 24/7, and then we would have our shifts AM, PM, or overnight sometimes. So I would see that individuals were able to thrive in the structured environment of our setting where we had staff members that rotated. We would tell the kids when to eat, when to sleep, when to, go to school, and then kind of rinse and repeat over and over again. But then over time, when you're there for 4 years, you kind of see kids that we would place in homes, but then they would kind of run into the same issues. And when they were out of the structured environment, they'd have some of the same behavioral challenges, and some of the foster families weren't able to provide support or services to them. And so then they would end up back with us in the residential care because they went through like psychiatric hospitalization or sometimes some juvenile detention center stuff as well. And so for me, it was like I was kind of just teaching people how to live in prison. That's what I felt like I was doing. And that wasn't anything wrong with what we were doing because we had a set of rules that we had to follow, and we really couldn't allow for some of the freedoms that you kind of need to give some individuals some rope to kind of go out there and do some things, and then you can kind of teach them. But that just wasn't what we were able to do with our regulations and our rules and the population of individuals we served. So as that, I was kind of like searching for what's next. And then an opportunity came across for me to work at an agency called Easter Seals in metropolitan Chicago, working in their therapeutic day school, supporting the students that had some behavioral challenges at the time, but they were living at home and thriving at home. And so I was very interested in that educational aspect of how can I support some of the behavioral challenges that I was familiar with, to then supporting teachers and clinicians to increase our students' ability to learn. And I ended up working at Easter Seals for a little bit over 18 years.
Wow. Okay.
In
Good stretch
multiple
there.
roles.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I started as a behavior consultant. So in that role, what I would do, we would try to increase the desired behavior. So we wanted students to sit and attend to lessons and perform tasks. We wanted them to acquire skills. And so we worked on like a reinforcement system of delivering reinforcement when the students did things that we wanted them to do. So we reinforced those either with items of reinforcement or activities of reinforcement. And then the students did have some maladaptive behaviors or some challenging behaviors. And so sometimes aggressive behaviors. So we were looking at reducing those as well. And so in my role as behavior consultant, I really felt like it was trying to increase communication skills, reinforce the appropriate skills, not come at it from a punitive sense. So we delivered reinforcement when the students did well, and we saw a lot of results. And so a lot of the cool things happened when I was just starting the technological wave, and communication devices and interactive technology also helped immensely with supporting our students.
That sounds like where you started to kind of move sort of further up the ranks.
Yeah, that was I used to joke it was a pseudo administrative role. I could tell you what to do, but I couldn't enforce it. So I was a colleague and a coworker at that time. So I was also like when I was working at Rice and at Easter Seals, I was getting a master's in psychology. My plan was to kind of finish up at Easter Seals for a year and then go into the counseling world. But I fell in love with the work I was doing, the population of individuals I was serving in that 1 year. My 1 year plan turned into an 18-year career. So shortly after I finished the first master's degree, I went and knew I wanted to get into leadership. And so I went and got a master's in business administration as well. So I was doing that while I kind of was moving into a more formal administrative role too.
And so you spent 18 years there. Is there a transition between that and the current job do you have, or is that where you came
So
from?
no, I left there and started working at UCP in September of 2023. So I've been here at UCP for just over 10 months now and loved every second of everything about my career, whether it was here at UCP so far, at Easter Seals, or even at Rice. I've been very blessed with the people I've been able to work with, the people I've been able to serve, and it's just a great career I've had so far, and I'm
That's
very,
wonderful.
very blessed and fortunate.
That's wonderful. You can't ask for anything more than that. Now, talk about the programs that your organization specializes in.
This is probably the easiest question I'll have to get to answer all day, and you might have to cut me off because I can talk forever about our programs.
Okay.
So in Joliet, we have two programs that are on site in the building I'm currently at. We have a therapeutic day school. We have a community day services program for adults. And then out in the community, we have two other programs. We have an in-home respite program, and then we have a home-based services program. So to talk more about our therapeutic day school, the cool thing about this agency and why it was very appealing to me, we primarily serve individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we do that across the lifespan. So we start with individuals that are eligible to receive services from us from as early as 3 years old. At the Therapeutic Day School, we're licensed to serve and support students that are ages 3 to 22. So we contract with local school districts when they don't have a program that meets the students' needs. So the students aren't making progress, or they just don't know how to support the students. So there's nothing that the students, certain diagnosis or anything like that automatically makes students eligible for services with us. It's just when the school districts don't have a program that meets their needs. We do have like some educational criteria that they have to meet and educational diagnoses that the students have to come with. But that's all done at the local school district level. And then we're here just to provide the support to those students. So we offer a range of curricular activities. We teach, math and science and social studies, language arts that you would see in a traditional school. We just have to modify that to the learner's level. And we're able to do that because of our smaller school size. We have about 40 students that attend here now. We can go no more than 10 students per classroom. So we are, when I say individualizing it, we are individualizing every student's education here. We offer PT, occupational therapy, speech therapy, in addition to those curricular activities. And we teach life skills and some recreation and leisure activities as well for our students. We are here when there's a need for students to attend here, because we ultimately want to have the students go back to their home schools district to be in a less restrictive environment.
And that happens, I presume.
Yes, that does. We actually just reintegrated one of our students at the end of June. She was with us for, I think, either around a year. We were able to help support her. And yeah, she's starting her next school year will be at her home school district.
All right, that's great. Okay, I'm sorry. And then you were going to go on. You were telling me about.
Yeah, our community day services program is one where, we provide a program for our adults.
Do you have senior citizens?
Yeah, we've got one who just celebrated his 73rd birthday back in June. And
So that requires
as active as me. So
yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
He's he's in a loving environment where, yeah, he comes and has a great time with the individuals that work with him. He's got great peers, and so he has a great time when he's here with us.
That's fantastic. I imagine though that for your staff that requires a kind of a breadth of experience, right? Because it's one thing to be handling and supporting someone who is 20 versus someone who's 73.
Yeah, that's correct. So, and I mentioned a little bit on the school end of things where we, employ teachers, speech therapists, occupational therapists,
Yes.
paraprofessionals, principal. In our community day services program, we employ our director of community programs who runs that program. And then we have direct support professionals that work here as well. And so our DSPs have been here for a very, very long time. So I think like our most tenured person has been working as a DSP with us for, I believe, 31 years.
Wow.
Will be at 32 years shortly.
This is someone who must love the work.
Yeah, and that's the family that I'm talking about when I talk about the gentleman who's 73 years old. He's been with us for many years. Some have been a student in school and now are a participant of our adult services program as well. So it's that longevity and that support that we've been providing throughout the years is really cool to see. And so with our direct support professionals, a third of them might have worked here for over 25 years. I think I've got another third that have worked here between 5 and 15 years. And then I've got another third that have worked here for, under 5 years, but at least 6 months. So, I mean,
yeah,
we do have people that really love the work, really love the participants. I'll never forget, I started on September 11th, 2023. They were going over current events discussion, talking about the anniversary of September 11th. And the DSP who was leading that discussion was talking to a group of participants. And I think 3 of them were at the site, on September 11th, 2001, when this was happening. So they were kind of remembering that experience, 22 years later. That really impacted me. And I really was impacted by that longevity that, not only for the staff members, but for our participants to stay in programming for that long is really remarkable. That tells me that this is a safe environment. It's one where the family members and the partner agencies really are satisfied with services. And so really deeply impacted me and makes me, not that I didn't respect my position, but it just made me respect my position and the agency just that much more.
I can understand that completely. And I imagine that longevity among the staff is a really valuable asset for your organization.
It is. So then the other programs that, well, first, like the last thing I want to just tie up on the community day services program is that the staff and the participants, like that program is geared for our participants to come to a site, and we provide opportunities for socialization, acquisition of leisure, recreation, skills, and just activities. We then try to teach some employment skills and a place for them to have some choices on what they want to do during the day. So some of our folks want to sit and watch streamed movies, Netflix. Some folks want to get up and do some activities. Some folks want to sew pillowcases and stuff like that. So we have like the opportunities for our participants to perform some activities throughout the day. At the end of the day, they get to choose what they want to do. And our staff are phenomenal with providing them an opportunity to get up and do some things and develop those meaningful relationships. Like I said,
based on the interest and ability.
Yeah. Like with the school, like it's kind of, they progress like a school, but here it's in the community day services program, they definitely are there for a longer term. In our other programs that we have 2 that are in the community. We have our in-home respite program, which is a much needed service in the area. what we do is we provide some support to families that care for individuals who have some significant needs. How I describe it is it's a specialized staff member that goes into the house and is able to care for a family member's loved one that has an intellectual developmental disability, and then affords them the opportunity to go out and do some things that they don't have the ability to do because of sometimes the requirements of that 24/7 care. So our family members do some fun things, like they might attend a show, or they might go to a movie, or go to another family member's sporting activity. You and me might be able to call up a neighbor and watch our kids. That's not what our families
Exactly.
need. They need someone who has some specialized training and some knowledge that they can support the family member. And it's usually a consistent person. It's not we're just staffing it. It's a consistent person who then kind of becomes part of the family. And sometimes some of my favorite pictures to see are when the in-home respite person's providing respite. They're not in home. They're taking them to fun places like the pumpkin patch or a pool, wherever they want to go. And the family's able to kind of do what they need to do. And then the individual can go with a respite worker to do some fun stuff too. So those are my
Yeah.
favorite pictures to see. And then I'm going to jump to our home-based services program. So we have individuals in Illinois that can live in residential facilities, institutions, or community integrated living arrangements. Our home-based services program is really geared towards helping the individuals we serve stay in their home or have a home of their own. What that means is we have self-directed assistants, or SDAs as they're known, work with the families to kind of learn, what do you need? If it's keeping a loved one living with them, or what are some of the things that you need? So you think like if they might need a home modification, so maybe a ramp built, or a vehicle modification so that, families can get around and go places. And there's things that we work with on some of those things, but then there might be some like therapy that's needed. So we might work, or SDAs might help get speech therapy services, or occupational therapy services, some behavioral health services. That SDA is really just supporting that family member, the family members, in trying to, get the resources needed to keep the individual living with the family. And those are some of the coolest stories as well, because and I know, and the consumers of social services know that sometimes the system can be kind of tricky, and paperwork isn't always the easiest to fill out. And so sometimes you might miss out on some opportunities because you check the wrong box, or you do something that is seemingly harmless, but it just gets flagged and causes a delay. Well, our SDAs also help with some of that paperwork as well. So that's a valuable support to
Yeah.
some of our families, because they make sure that everything is completed the way it should be. And they really do a lot of they check in with each family at least 4 or 5 hours a month to make sure that they are getting the support and services that they need. And although I don't directly see that, because everyone's living in their homes and they don't come here for services, they'll send notes and say that the SDA really helped them out, and here's how. And they're so thrilled that they're able to live in a home of their own or live with family members. And it's really a cool service, because again, the alternative is to kind of go live in a residential facility, or one where their family members don't live with them.
So if there's anything else on the programs that you thought about that you might want to mention before we move on to kind of future goals for the organization.
The one thing I might have failed to mention is that, being, new and here about 10 months, I really did inherit a great staff, a passionate staff. They love working here. They really enjoy supporting the individuals we serve. And there's just so much care for the people we serve.
Well, you kind of alluded to it, and it does raise a question for me. I was impressed by the longevity of some of your staff. It's really impressive, and because as you well know, industry-wise, staff turnover rates are very high, especially among DSPs.
Yeah, we've got a tremendous amount of retention.
Hmm.
Illinois did something really good where they reached out to programs like ours, and they awarded us a grant to say basically recruiting and retaining direct support professionals. And so we do have a vacancy, so we're able to use some of those funds for recruiting. But the cool thing was I got to spend a lot of that discretionary funding on giving our DSPs retention bonuses, because we didn't have to spend allocated funds towards recruiting. But overall, we do have some pretty good longevity here.
Yeah, no, it's impressive, and I suspect it's as with almost anything, you can be struggling because of maybe cost of living, or you're struggling because for whatever reason the industry isn't able to raise salaries or hourly pay as easily as others might be able to do. But at the same time, very often people stick around because they're satisfied with their job and they enjoy their work, and they're willing to stick it out until things improve again. So it sounds like perhaps the atmosphere, as much as anything, has something to do with that.
Yeah, and I really think it does go back to the individuals we serve. The students and the participants are are awesome.
Let's talk about the future then. You've been there for 10 months now, you say, in that executive capacity,
Mhm.
and have gotten to know the lay of the land and are probably running the show the way you'd like to run it. But what are your plans now? What's your
So,
vision for the coming few years for your organization?
so I don't know about the lay of the land and how I've got it running the way I want to run it. That's very generous of you, James. Um, I don't think my personality, I could be here for 40 years. I don't know if it'd ever be perfect because we can always get better at what we're doing.
What I meant to say was, where the bathrooms are now, right?
Yeah, I know where the bathrooms are. I don't have to look at my card for the phone number as much anymore or my extension. But no, in all seriousness, when it comes to future programming, I want to make sure we're providing first and foremost the best services in the area to better service the lives of the individuals we serve. That also ties into some of the employment initiatives too. I want to make sure that we're an employer of choice. So ensuring that we are first and foremost competitive with our wages for our employees, training requirements and training professional development opportunities for our employees as well, making sure that they have access to training curricula and are growing and advancing with the way we serve the people we serve. The other thing is making sure that we are providing awareness that we're UCP Center for Disability Services is in the area and we're able to help, but also that although we may not do the specific service, here's who can help you, because it's tough navigating a social services system, and I just want to make sure that we are trying to facilitate that across the board.
That's a really important component of the work you do, right? Because no organization can do everything, but being a resource for people when they come in the door, if you know that your organization has limited capacity or something, you're able to refer them, right?
You're correct in the way we're thinking about that as well. And
Hmm.
then as we look to like expand programs, if we start looking at what's needed in our community, what's not being provided out there, what's not done so well, and then we're looking to see if it aligns with our mission and our vision, we might look at expanding our services and our programs to meet those gaps.
Let me ask you a quick question I should have asked earlier. Approximately how many staff do you have in total, and how many people do you serve on an annual basis?
Great question. So we have about 50 staff that are on site, and then we have probably 20 that are off site, about 70 total staff members. And then we serve annually around 200 to 250 individuals, and then more if we include our family.
So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but going on in terms of
No,
other future goals.
so future goals, I think I talked about the future goals is making sure that I want us to be an employer of choice, meaning I want people to want to come work here because of the people we serve, the competitive benefit package that we offer, the work we get to do, and the training opportunities that we have for our staff members, and being me encouraging lifelong learning and just continuing to improve upon our practice. Overall, those are like some of the short and long term goals.
So let me close out today's interview, if you don't mind, with I always like to
Sure.
ask our leaders in our
Mhm.
organizations how they lead. Just what philosophies you apply, what practices you apply, generally speaking, in terms of how you're exercising your role as the person at the helm.
Great question. I'll let you know. No. So no, it is a great question to think about leadership. And first and foremost, when I think about leadership in social services and human services, I truly believe my first priority is to the people in our care, our students, our participants, and their families. So I want to make sure that any decision I make has their interests at the forefront. I have on my board in my office three phrases, and that's the first one: what's best for the student, participants, and families. My second question that I ask myself when making a decision: does it make UCP better? And then the last one is: no matter what, believe everyone is trying their best. So that's kind of like my core. beliefs in the work I do, whether it's leadership and non-leadership activities. I kind of use those to kind of ground myself. And then when we talk about leadership, I believe first and foremost, I like to hire people that are good quality people, let them do their work, provide resources and support when necessary. That's kind of like I like to try to hire people that are smarter than me in certain aspects of things, because as a leader, you can't know everything. You have to trust people to do their work. I also like to help people like through some tough decisions. So it's fun to kind of go through that exploratory process with people of whether they're making a decision or if they have something they're struggling with, to do more of that, of, talk people through as opposed to tell people this is what you have to do. Trying to get better at having, scheduled one-on-one time check-ins with my directors where I can just have one-on-one time formally. I mean, obviously I talk to them when need be, but just kind of like that, just here's our on the time calendar to talk to each other, to kind of go through some of the big picture items, not the things that happen maybe day to day, but really truly trying to empower. I really want to have people be able to do their job and give them the resources and tools and the knowledge and sometimes the permission to do it, because that's sometimes leadership is allowing people to have ideas and running with them and seeing if they improve our agencies. And then celebrating the wins is kind of the last thing. So I just actually, and I don't know if this is going to go to air, but before I talk to you, is I was on the phone with our director of school services and we were able to hire someone, and
great.
We have
Congrats.
some other vacancies to go, but it's
Yeah.
always like, let's stop and let's celebrate that we did this. And then congratulations, let's enjoy this moment that we were able to, although it sounds like sometimes, hiring someone might not be like the greatest thing in the world, but it was an important moment for us. We were trying to hire this position and we finally were able to fill that vacancy, whether it's that or fundraising or any type of thing. As we celebrate and we make sure that, we tell people they're doing good work. I like to be very communicative too as well. Even if we disagree, like I tell people, like, it's okay for us to disagree. I like having differences of opinions as well. And so it's one thing to disagree, but you just can't be disagreeable. So I can't, what that means is like, I'm going to, disagree with everything you say because I don't like you. No, if you disagree, this is the time to do that before we kind of move forward, as opposed to the I told you so's. Or sometimes it's good to just be able to say, I've given my opinion, and then ultimately, like, I need to make the decision, and you don't get them all right, but I can at least make sure I give everyone the opportunity to share their input on those things as well. And so there is that component of involving others in some decision making when appropriate, knowing that I need to make that decision. But at the end of the day too, I think I want people to have that opportunity to share their thoughts, opinions in that kind of safe zone where they're, won't get judged or any of that stuff.
Brian Patel is the Executive Director of UCP Center for Disability Services in Joliet, Illinois, which is near my hometown of Chicago, Illinois. I want to thank you so much for being with us, Brian, talking us through your programs, your future goals, and your leadership style. It's something that is always beneficial to hear, and I hope you're able to share this with your audience, people in your community, and your staff as well once we get this posted. But I want to thank you so much for being part of this episode of Life Without Limits.
Thanks for having me, James. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate our partnership with UCP National, and it really is an honor to be a part of this network. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.